I'm not going to the draft.
Oh, you're not?
No, I have a fucking wedding. For some reason, I didn't write it down on my schedule. I was going through my paperwork. I'm like, oh fuck. Oh well. My wife was not thrilled about me taking 2 days off to go to the draft, and I don't know.
Well, now we can do shows if you want.
Yeah, like quick recaps every night or something.
Yeah.
Unless Tyler is doing it already, which is possible too. He's starting to irritate me. He's like, they keep doing the same thing.
I thought you were going to talk to him about the other day.
They keep doing the same damn things we just did. Like, oh well. Trying to make me wonder if he even listens to us. Bastard. But, all right. I don't think he'll do this, though, so that's good. All right, you ready, man?
Yeah.
All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to Devy Happy. Yeah. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to Devy Happy Hour. This is episode 7, here to provide Devy insight and ways to improve your Devy rosters, as well as look at a college football landscape and NFL draft with each episode. You can find us on Twitter at Devy Happy Hour, and our email is devyhappyhour@gmail.com. Special thank you to Tyler Gunther at DHH_Tyler for reaching out to us and giving us another avenue to provide Devy information for the masses. This is Dwight talking. It probably doesn't sound like it, but now I want to introduce my co-host, Andrew. Andrew, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm good, Dwight. How are you? I'm sick too. I'm just messing with you. You get me full strength.
Did Florida win tonight? I didn't even look. I can edit this out.
I was pulling it up right now, actually.
I was just thinking. I knew they were down. I wasn't like ribbing you or anything.
Oh, they were down? I didn't look
last I saw.
Halftime.
I saw. Let's see. Oh, they're up 67-61 with 30 seconds left.
Okay,
they should win.
I feel good then. Yeah, I feel good then.
Good Lord, Gonzaga's murdering Fairleigh Dickinson.
Well, it's Gonzaga. Yeah, they should.
Yeah, 83-41. All right. We'll cut that out. But all right, today we're going to go over each division. Like today, we're going to do the AFC East and NFC East, and next couple weeks we'll go over obviously the Central and the West and the North. Is that right? It doesn't sound right. Yeah, it is. Okay. Oh, that was the hardest part I had when I was on the Dynasty game night, was which team was in which divisions. I struggled with that. But anyway, this week we're going to go over. Huh?
Oh, nothing. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, man.
Oh, I was just going to say I'm a degenerate. Like, I remember I did that as a project in elementary school. It was like, what's an impressive talent? And it was, I can name all the teams and all the divisions in football. So don't mind me.
I remember I used to do like baseball or football cards that had standings on them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but that was also, 40-something years ago, it feels like. So, yeah, I'm not that old. But anyways, first thing we're going to do, we're going to go through the AFC East. I'm going to outline the picks that each team has, and we're going to go through their best case and worst case scenario. The Patriots are loaded with picks. First round,
there.
Yep, pick 32. Second round, 56 and 64. Third round, they have 73, 97, 101, 1/4, 1/6, and 4 7s. So, Andrew, what do you think is the best case scenario for the Patriots sitting at 32?
I think the best case scenario is going to be a tight end. And I don't know, obviously, if he'll fall that far, but Noah Fant, I think, would just thrive and be a fantasy monster in New England. Tight ends, especially rookie tight ends, are known to take a couple years to finally produce. Evan Ingram kind of broke that mold a couple years ago. David Njoku a little bit did at the same time, not to the extent Ingram did his rookie year, but I think Fant in that New England system, especially if Gronk retires, would put up all-time numbers for a rookie tight end, potentially even just finishing overall as a top tight end. Obviously, you got Kelsey and Ertz and Kittle to compete with, but I mean, Gronk, you're putting in a healthier Gronk. He doesn't block like Gronk does, so I don't know how that'll affect the way the Patriots use him in certain packages, but just imagine a Gronk with 2 good legs and just 2 hands.
Right, because Gronk looked like just a shell of himself last year. Like, he could barely move, and I honestly don't know why he doesn't retire, but I guess it's just there.
I can't remember who it was saying that Patriots were playing in the playoffs with 3 tackles.
Right.
They had their left, their right, and then Gronk.
Yeah. My best case scenario, I don't think it's going to happen either. I've seen Cleveland Farrell falling pretty far in the first round, and I think if he fell to the Patriots, that would be like a dream come true for them. I mean, they just lost Trey Flowers, and he's not exactly like Trey Flowers, but he's definitely got that versatility on the line, and I could see Bill Belichick getting a lot out of him. So I don't think he'll fall that far, but I think that would be their best case scenario if he fell that far. I don't see any of the tight ends. Then I see, a tight end in the second round, because then they got all those picks in the second and third.
Right.
Grabbing an Irv Smith, a Jay Sternberger, something like that. Your worst case scenario kind of surprised me because I almost made him my best case. Surprisingly,
my worst case is Debo, and that's more of like a fanboy pick for me because I just don't think it could be a best case or a worst case. Like you were saying, he was going to be your best case. I just think he'll kind of New England Patriots receivers kind of all turn into be a dime a dozen. Like you got Dorsett, Edelman excels there. With Hogan not being brought back yet, did Hogan sign anywhere?
I don't think so, not yet.
With Hogan being gone, he could potentially step in there, but Debo's more than a slot to me. Like I think you can put Debo all over the place. I mean, he can be a slot if you need, but he can just as well produce on the outside. So he doesn't have the big body that Randy Moss or Josh Gordon had for Brady, but I think I can't remember who I was listening to. Somebody was saying throw him in the slot and let him do his thing. I'm like, if you throw him just in the slot, I think you're really hampering what he can do as a receiver.
Right.
He can go across the middle. He can spread deep. He could do the slot, like I said. I think Debo would be constricted in New England just because each receiver there has a role. Whereas I think Debo would be fun in a lot of other offenses being all over the place.
Right. I can understand that now. Like I don't know if my microphone's okay. There it goes.
You're good.
All right. Yeah, I can definitely understand that. What I meant was, I think the worst case is for them to take a wide receiver early, like the second round or first round. I think if they fall to the third, when they got 3 picks in the third, and then they get somebody like Debo, Terry McLaurin, like they need to grab, like I can see them doing kind of what the Packers did last year, just grab like 3 wide receivers. They've got to reload that wide receiver corps. It's terrible, but I think if they go wide receiver too early, they'll minimize their value. But at the same time, I have trouble poo-pooing anything that the Patriots do. They somehow always make everything work.
Yeah, and that's the thing is anything they do, and that's why you said they have 12 picks. Right. They're going to get production out of probably 9 of them.
Right.
Realistically, at some point, so it just speaks to Belichick.
And they could do the Matt Miller thing and trade all their late picks and get a couple more earlier ones and just really get some stud picks. So,
I do think too, just for what it's worth, I do think they're going to trade for Rosa. It's not me knowing anything or hearing it from anybody, but like you said, they've got all those third-round picks. Throw a couple of those thirds for Rosen, if that's what everyone's saying the value for Rosen's going to be. Why wouldn't you? Because then he can just sit and wait behind Brady, and then you've got your perfect quarterback.
Right. Yeah, and we'll get to him later. I think the rumors are going to come true, and but we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yep.
So the next team in the AFC East, the Jets, they have picks. They have picks in the first, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round. All of them are the third pick in each round. I didn't break it down by numbers on them. Andrew, what do you think their best case is for the Jets?
I think their best case is N'Keal Harry. I almost wrote in somebody else who we'll talk about, but then I thought about it. I was like, no, they already got somebody like that. So I think N'Keal is just a versatile enough receiver where he's kind of like that Debo where he can stretch the field, but at the same time, he can make the Odell catches that New York's not going to get anymore. Sorry, Patrick Chamberlain. But I just think Harry, you got to build around Darnold while you can. That defense is going to be very, very solid with Greg Williams. You got Le'Veon Bell. You're loading up on the offensive line with some sneaky good signings, and then you just got to address that in the draft. That's the only worry, though, is at 3, I don't think they can get Harry because you're not going to take N'Keal Harry at 3. But if they trade back like Connor Rogers has been calling for this whole time, I think if they get that extra 2 or a third, say, and then you can move back up, do whatever. I mean, the Browns a couple years ago moved back up into the first round twice. So I don't think that's out of the question for McCagnon. So with Harry, I think he's a best case. Is it realistic? Probably not. But I just would like to see them get another receiver, and that was my favorite receiver for them.
Right. Now, who do you think Harry would take over for? Because they pretty much have Anderson and Nunwa and now Crowder as the top three. I like all three of those, and I can't see Harry beating any of those three out.
My only thing is with Nunwa, he's been around for a couple years, and they keep saying they're going to move him outside. And it's funny, I just wrote an article for Dynasty Happy Hour saying that now the Crowder's there, and Nunwa can go full-time outside with Robbie Anderson. Right. I think Nunwa or Anderson are going to burn out. I think if I'm a betting man, I'm thinking it's going to be Nunwa just because he's been there a little bit longer. And Anderson's shown the explosiveness to produce. As long as he keeps his head straight off the field, I think if you had a receiving core with Anderson, Crowder, and another rookie, I just would like somebody with that size and versatility and what you've seen can produce on the outside compared to what you have with Nunwa, where you're just projecting at this point.
Right, and all three of those receivers have not shown the propensity to stay healthy yet. So, yeah, I mean, it would only take a matter of time, I think, before he stepped into the starting lineup.
Right.
But I like all three of those guys, honestly, this year. My best case scenario, I mean, is pretty much if they don't trade, they're either going to have Josh Allen or Nick Bosa, I think. So either one of those, I think, would be a great scenario for them. Good centerpiece to build their line around. But I think still the best safe scenario is for them to trade. I keep hearing the Giants, but we'll see about that. And my worst case scenario is if they try to draft Jonah Williams that early. Like, they do need offensive line help, but I don't like Williams at 3. But if they fell back to the middle of the first, that could be a good thing. What do you think was their worst case scenario?
It's funny. I was going to write it in, and then I was like, well, we already got enough outside receivers, but I think them taking Metcalf that early, everyone's going to be trying to pencil in Metcalf early to receiver. I mean, and Matt Miller wants to scream to the mountaintops that he doesn't want it to happen, but everyone keeps throwing jokingly Metcalf in it too. But I think 3 is a chance. I don't think it happens, but like you just said, they got a Nunwa, Crowder, and everybody else. Metcalf, to me, I think needs to go to a system where they're going to kind of explore with him a little bit and see what he can do. Whereas I think with New York, I don't think he's Robbie Anderson to me at this point.
Right.
And I mean, Metcalf's the more physical freak, obviously, but I just don't think Metcalf in New York would be very well. I don't think Metcalf in the top couple picks is very good in general.
Right. I would hate that. Like, absolutely hate that. Like, there's so much more they could do there. Yeah, even if they traded back to the middle of the round, I wouldn't take Metcalf. It's just, they're building something good there, I feel like, and I think he would be a huge step back for them. So, yeah, I totally agree there. All right, next up we have the Bills. The Bills have a pretty decent amount of picks too. They pick in at 9, second round 40, third round 74. They have 2 in the 4th, 2 in the 5th, 1 in the 6th, and 2 in the 7th. So they have a pretty decent amount of picks there. Yeah. So what do you think would be their best case scenario at 9 and then maybe 40 and 78, like the first couple rounds?
I think with their pick in the top 10, number 9, I think they can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. They need offensive line help, but they need to get more weapons for Josh Allen. Yeah, they brought in John Brown and Cole Beasley, but they're not number 1 receivers. And Robert Foster, as much as you believe or don't believe in him, he's not a number 1 receiver either. I think TJ Hawkinson, you get that offensive line help and you get that receiving help. So that's why, for me, I think Hawkinson's their best case scenario, where you get the run support because of his blocking ability, but then you also get that toughness that Buffalo is going to love. Coming from Iowa, playing in the snow. I mean, he screams Buffalo Bill to me. Not obviously the Western show, but everything. But
no, I totally agree. He can play in the snow and the elements, and he's that blue collar type of player.
It seems like a perfect fit for that town, and I think they would
the Bills Mafia would love him.
Yes,
they would love him. And I think my best case scenario is also, I think they would love him there and want Jawan Taylor, the lineman from Florida. I think that'd be a great pick too. They've got to get someone to block for Josh Allen, because Josh Allen ran for so much last year because he was always running for his freaking life. But so yeah, I like that pick. I've seen actually Hawkinson and Taylor, I think are probably the 2 most common ones I've seen mocked to the Bills. I think we're both kind of in line with what mainstream is right now. So
yep. Yeah, we talked about it in Indianapolis a little bit, and I love the idea of Hawkinson at 9. I think he deserves to be a top 10 pick, especially after the combine and everything. So
I like your worst case scenario. Come on now. Their running backs are all in the 40s. Come on now.
I know. I think it's more. I just like to see a little bit of a more immediate thing. I don't want to see them draft any running backs. I know they got McCoy. They signed the 5,000-year-old Frank Gore. Like you just said, their average age I think is 33 something for the running backs, 30 something, and McCoy and Gore that are still playing is just shocking to me.
Right.
But, and like you said, the wheels are going to fall off at some point. So if they do draft somebody, they do have a chance. But my biggest thing is the reason I don't want any running backs is because of that offensive line and because of Josh Allen, where he's going to be forced to improvise so much. And until that offensive line is addressed, I don't want any running back behind it because there's no one in this class that's good enough to transcend a bad O-line. There's no Barkley this year. Barkley made a bad O-line look great last year with his numbers. So there's nobody in this class that can do that, and that's why I don't want them to draft any running backs.
Right. I can see that. I was thinking they might grab one late, like a project guy like Darrell Henderson if he makes it, round 4 or 5, something like that. But yeah, I'm definitely not early, that's for sure. My worst case was DK Metcalf. I've seen him mocked there several times, and I think they have enough receivers now for Josh Allen, and I think they need to focus on like the offensive line and building that team around him. If they want to grab a wide receiver late, I could definitely see that. Like a tall number one. Like maybe Keem Butler in the second or something like that, But I don't think they need to spend an early pick on DK Metcalf. It'd be a pretty bad choice, I think. But
agreed.
Yeah, they have a lot of versatility, a lot of things they can do as well, and a lot of holes. So another team with a lot of holes, the Miami Dolphins. They surprisingly are picked 13th. I didn't think they did that good last year.
No, they were like sneaky good. Osweiler didn't play too bad for them.
I think it's probably going to happen this year too with Fitzmagic. So they pick at 13, 48. Third round, they pick 78, fourth, 116. Then they have a fifth, sixth, and seventh. I'm not going to go through it. I think they have all their picks they're supposed to have. No compensatory pick.
Yeah, there's nothing really.
So what do you think their best case scenario is, Andrew?
I think they're not going to win this year. You just said it. They signed Fitzmagic. And I think, honestly, that's going to kind of shoot them in the foot because everything that you're hearing and reading is they want to go all in on Tua next year. And people can feel however they want to feel on Tua, but he's probably going to be a top 10 pick because he's a quarterback. But if Fitzmagic gets them to play in the teens as far as picks, they're going to kind of shoot themselves in the foot. But with that being their plan in mind, and that's what everyone's saying, I'm taking Andre Dillard because he's my top-rated left tackle. And I think at 13 he'll be available. If not, they have to settle for Jonah Williams. I'm fine with that too. I just think Andre Dillard would be a starting point for them, kind of like they did when they were rebuilding before with Jake Long out of Michigan. And then they were eventually able to get to the playoffs. They didn't win anything Super Bowl-wise, playoff game-wise, but Jake Long was a big impact on that team, and I think Andre Dillard can be that same type of building block for the Dolphins and whatever quarterback they decide to go with in the future.
Right. Yeah, I think they need to go out defensive line. I'd love to see it. I mean, Ed Oliver, I've seen anywhere from 7 to 25. So
yeah,
I would love him there in Miami. He's just got you want somebody that'll bring that type of attitude, that type of fire. One that'll. I love the way he plays. He's just got a nasty streak to him, and I think that team needs it. Like I feel like they've been kind of floundering for years, and I'd like to see Gase kind of. I feel like he kind of was a Nancy boy. That's what I feel like. But I
would argue with you.
Yeah, I'd like to see him be a little more nasty, and I think Ed Oliver would be a great pick there. Worst case scenario, I think if they go quarterback early or any reach early, this team has so many holes. I think they've got to be super, super careful with what they do. There's values all through this draft, and they're one of those teams they have to hit. They have to hit on at least 5 of them. So what's your worst case scenario?
Kind of to go off your point with the quarterbacks, I think taking Drew Lock. That's somebody that now that the Broncos have acquired Joe Flacco, John Elway's kind of come back to his senses, and he's like, okay, I can wait on a quarterback if you want to trust Joe Flacco, but that's his job, not mine. With Drew Lock, I just think Drew Lock with that offensive line and the lack of weapons. I mean, in Missouri, he had weapons with Emmanuel Hall, Alberto, Crockett, the running back, where he was able to produce good numbers and everything. But I think in Miami, The running backs, I'm not sold on any of them. Albert Wilson and Devontae Parker coming back. I'm not sold on them either. So I just think throwing a young quarterback, especially Drew Lock, who has the completion percentage worries, you take that behind what was a decent O-line in the tough SEC, and you throw him in the AFC East where you got a Greg Williams defense. New England's defense is always tough. I just think Miami would be in for a rude awakening with trying to give the keys to any quarterback early, like you said, but specifically Lock.
Right, I 100% agree there. All right, we're going to shift gears now. We're going to go to the NFC East. We'll start out with the Eagles for our buddy Tom Corson here. The Eagles, they pick at 25. Second round, they got 53 and 57. Fourth round, they got 2. Fifth round, 1. Sixth round, 1. So they have some pretty decent picks, and they're one I hear can possibly move up as well. They kind of have a couple needs, but Andrew, I'm going to give you the floor first. This seems to be a pretty popular pick.
Yeah, I'm going to see what you got down too, so I'm sure you'll let me talk it up first. I think best case is Josh Jacobs. I mean, they have got Corey Clement, Wendell Smallwood, if he's even there anymore under contract. I couldn't tell you. I'm sure Tom will yell at me whenever he listens to this. I just think Josh Jacobs would give Carson Wentz the running back he hasn't had there in his whole career, and it'll take a little bit of the pressure off him. And as he's back injury is a back injury, whether you're on a Life Alert commercial or you're Carson Wentz's age. I think Josh Jacobs would be his best friend and kind of be that Alvin Kamara type for that offense and just really open up things. Wentz is able to relieve the pressure, throwing a check down to Jacobs. That's great. If not, he'll just improvise, do whatever. I just think Jacobs is going to be a great weapon. And I think in a Doug Peterson offense where he was coached up with Andy Reid, you kind of go back to see what Andy Reid's done with running backs. I think Doug Peterson will be able to do the same thing once he gets a talented back.
Right. I'd actually like to see him go offensive line. I think if Dillard makes it that far. I just think I feel like they've taken the safety net off a little bit with Wentz now by getting rid of Foles or letting Foles go. Sorry. I think they've got to protect him. They've been sacked 40 times last year, 38 in 2017, I believe, which is a little bit above middle, but I don't know. I just worry about protecting Carson Wentz and those. I mean, he's already looking like he's going to be injury prone if they don't, get him settled and let him sit in the pocket because he's an electric guy, but I'd like to see him get something to protect him. And I think they can still get possibly Jacobs in the second round, but if not, there's also some other options I like there, like Travion Williams, and there's other options if they decide to go to running back that would be better than any that they have on their roster right now. So I actually don't like Jacobs in the first, and I hope they don't take a wide receiver either, but I can't imagine they wouldn't. That was my worst case scenario. What was your worst case scenario?
Yeah, my worst case isn't going to be obviously in the first or maybe even the second. I just think Scary Terry McLaurin is going to be a good, fun receiver on some team. I just think with Deshaun Jackson getting reacquired there, they would play the same role. Jackson's obviously not going to be putting up insane numbers like he used to, but he's going to be that home run threat the same way I think McLaurin's going to be for whatever team gets him. So he's just another Senior Bowl crush. I would just like to see him go to an offense where he'll be able to show his talent and his deep ball apparatus or ability.
I'm Green Bay.
He made Drew Lock look good in Mobile, so that speaks to what he can do.
So, all right. Yep. Can't agree. I can't. Yeah, I agree totally, man. Next, the Giants. Man, looked like they had a plan going into the season or into the off season. I don't know what the hell they're doing, man. Anyways, they pick at 6, 17, 37. They have 1 in the third. I think they had 2 in the third, but I don't know. Fourth through 4 fifths, a sixth, and 2 sevenths. They have quite a few picks, obviously, from their trades of Eli Apple and Odell Beckham Jr. So, Andrew, what do you think their best case scenario is?
I think they need to take the same route potentially that the Dolphins are talking about doing and fix that offensive line for whatever quarterback the future may be. Gettleman obviously loves Eli Manning, so protect him for what year or two you have left of him. And then whenever you draft a quarterback, say in 2020 or 2021, you'll have that offensive line already in place, and that way he'll be able to step up. Kind of similar to, I'm not comparing the situations and what could happen, Dallas had with Tony Romo to Dak Prescott. That offensive line was already set, and I think that had a lot to do with Dak's success. And they had Zeke there as well. You got Saquon. Just shore up the offensive line, and then a quarterback, whichever one you take, will be able to step up there and do something similar to what Dak Prescott has done.
Right. I like their best case. There's a possibility that Quinnen Williams could follow them at 6, and I think they'd be stupid to pass that up if he did. He's would replace, they need a presence in the middle after getting rid of Damon Harrison. So, they would be, I think, just dumber and I'll get out and then not take him if he fell to 6. The worst case scenario, I think it kind of feeds into yours not moving up to get a quarterback, or if they don't pull a trade to get Josh Rosen with what we're hearing and all the ammunition they have with draft picks, I think that would be considered a worst case scenario for them. What do you think for worst case, Andrew?
I think their worst case is taking Dwayne Haskins. I kind of heard that. It's picked up in the last week. You hadn't heard it a whole lot confirmed, but it started with Matt Miller and Connor Rogers talking about it. I was listening to Move the Sticks, and Bucky Brooks and Lance Zierlein were talking about it. And it seems like as soon as one person started with it, everyone's like, okay, let's look into it. And, oh, hey, this actually is working. So, yeah, for me, it all comes down to that O-line again. And you throw Haskins in there. I think Haskins can be a good quarterback. He might end up as the QB1. I haven't finalized grades yet, but I just think he's the best pocket passer in the class. And just best pure passer, I think, is Haskins. So I just want to see him. And there's no weapons anymore, really. You got Golden Tate and Sterling Shepard, but you got Golden Tate and Sterling Shepard. So
what would you think hypothetically if they took Jonah at 6 and then traded up to like 8 or 9 and took Haskins there?
In that scenario, I'd be okay with it.
Okay.
Like, it's just my biggest thing is look at David Carr in Houston. Right. He never had a chance to succeed because that O-line was horrendous and he got the hell beat out of him. I think it's still record numbers how many times he was sacked that year.
Yeah, it was insane.
So you just don't want to get hit like that. And for a rookie quarterback, you shake your confidence, you get nervous. He's got Saquon there, but I think you need to shore up that line before you throw a quarterback to the Wolves.
100% agree, man. All right, next up on the NFC East, we're going to do the Cowboys. Cowboys do not have a first-round pick. They have a second round at 58, third round at 90, 2 fourths, a fifth, and a 7th. So they don't have a lot of picks. What do you think their best-case scenario in this draft would be?
I really like Caden Smith. He's in my top 5 tight ends. And I think where they're picking, that's what kind of made it tough for their best and worst-case scenarios to consider. I think Caden Smith would be great. He wouldn't be forced to go in that year 1, but he'll get a year of coaching with Jason Witten kind of mentoring a little bit. I think he'd be better than any other tight end they have there already, apart from Witten, obviously, even with his age and everything. But just kind of ease Smith into things. I think Dak, we've seen what Dallas could do with good tight ends, with Witten and everything, and I think Smith would be a perfect replacement for Witten and would solve a lot of problems for Dak, personally.
Oh, right. And my pick kind of ties in with that. I would like to see him possibly get a Akeem Butler or a tight end like Irv Smith Jr. I think both of those can play the same sort of role. Like somebody that can kind of be a safety blanket where Dak can just kind of chuck it up, if he needs to. Right. I worry about his hands because Amari Cooper doesn't have the best hands in the world either. So I kind of worry about that fit a little bit, but I think it'd be fun to have him there in Dallas. And I think the worst case would be for them to not build their defense. I feel like their defense is starting to become very, very nasty. And I'd like to see them add a couple more pieces. I think defense is, it's so important these days, and I'd like to see them keep building on what they have. So they did lose quite a bit in free agency as well on defense. What about worst case for you, Andrew?
Yeah, the worst case, and this is like a sneaky, deep running back. He may not get drafted till round 5 or later. Jordan Scarlett, running back out of Florida, had a pretty decent combine performance with his numbers and everything. They had a running back by committee situation down in Florida between P. Ryan and Scarlett and a couple others. I think Scarlett, because they lost Rod Smith, I think they're going to be looking to draft a running back to kind of back up Zeke. And obviously Zeke plays a lot unless he's suspended. But I think Scarlett can be in a committee role. And I think in Dallas, his value obviously would go down to nothing. So it's more or less, I just don't want to see his fantasy value because I have him stashed personally in a couple places, I will say. Go down the tubes, more or less.
Right. I wouldn't mind seeing them get a pass catching back like James Williams or something like that. Like, Yeah, it's something I can see would be a good fit there. All right, the Redskins, they are kind of, there's some buzz around going that they're going to be one of the teams that's going to be wanting to move. They have pick 15, second round. They have 46. They have 2 and 3, 2 in round 3. They have 2 in round 5. They have a 6 and 2 in round 7. So they do have some ammunition if they want to move. And what do you think is their best case scenario?
I think their best case is somehow Dwayne Haskins falls to them. I don't think it happens, but I think, like you're talking about trading up, I think they could do that. The problem is they're going to have to probably jump the Giants potentially, and maybe even Tampa, depending on how Arians and everybody sees Winston. I mean, from everything I've read, is Arians loves Winston. So I think the Jets and the Redskins would be very good trade partners. So it'll just be a matter of actually getting that trade done because the Redskins have that extra 3. So if they offer their 1 and 3 and whatever else just to move up to get Haskins, they have the ammunition to make that package work. So I just think Haskins would be great in Washington personally.
Right. And my best case was kind of a quarterback as well. I think they should actually stay put and get somebody like Jared Stidham later, someone who can sit and develop for a year or 2. And I love Stidham. I would love to have him on my own team if I had an NFL team. But so I would like to see him actually stay put. And I think one of their worst case would be to move up to get a quarterback. I think the team is not as good as they sometimes play, and I think they have more holes than they need, and more holes that need to be filled. I'd like to see them. I don't think they're keeping pace with Dallas and and Philadelphia. So I'd like to see them keep their picks and stay put. But that's my own opinion. What do you think their worst case scenario is then?
I think the worst case is Daniel Jones. I think every team's worst case should be Daniel Jones personally. I mean, they've talked about the Giants taking him at 17, the Redskins taking him at 15, and yeah, if he gets taken there, I mean, they got Colt McCoy. I'd probably rather go with Colt McCoy for the whole year than Daniel Jones.
Oh, I agree.
And Jay Gruden, I don't think gets enough credit for being a good coach, like I think he is personally. But you can only do so much to make a crappy car look nice. So you can make the exterior look nice, but then when it starts going in races, it's not going to perform.
That's why I think they need to use what they have and just sit tight.
Yeah, and I'd be okay with that.
Later quarterback. Yeah. All right, we actually have a bunch of fan questions. I'm pretty excited about this. So next week we'll cover another 2 divisions, but we're going to get into some fan questions right now. First one is from Tyler Fornes. Tyler got offered Antonio Brown for Stephon Diggs, David Njoku, and the 1.05 in a PPR league, and I turned it down. So he turned down Brown for Diggs, Njoku, and a 1.5, which I would have done that also.
Oh, yeah. I would have laughed and then hit reject.
So what do you see as Brown's value right now? Like, this isn't college or Devy, but
I mean, probably picks wise, we could throw it in and compare it Devy wise. I mean, if you've got somebody you're sitting on, like, I would maybe see if he'll bite on the Metcalf hype. Like if you had somebody like that where a Butler, a Metcalf, somebody receiver wise or in this rookie class that is really getting hyped up, even like a Noah Fant or something. 105 obviously could be a couple different people. I just Diggs and Njoku. I mean, I would maybe do, if it's not a tight end premium, I would maybe do Njoku in that 105.
That's what I was thinking. I would not
just
all
keep the
3
Diggs out of it.
Yeah, or Diggs and maybe a little bit later of a pick, but I think Brown's value. I mean, you've got to still value him as he's going to be one of the top 2 or 3 receivers.
Yeah,
I think he's going to get peppered with targets. I don't think he's going to be quite as good as he was in Pittsburgh, but he's still going to be one of the top receivers. I mean, unless Carr goes down or something, I can't really see.
Bucky Brooks,
good. You've got to treat him as one of the top 3 wide receivers, and I mean, he's still got, you think, probably at least 3 years left in him. So
yeah. Bucky Brooks was talking about it on Move the Sticks, and it's funny, I never even thought about it. He was talking about how Gruden in Green Bay was able to get a lot out of Sterling Sharp, who was in his mid-30s at the time. Mm-hmm. Went to Oakland, got a lot out of Tim Brown and Jerry Rice, who were in their mid to late 30s. Went to Tampa Bay, got a lot out of Keenan McCardell and Keyshawn Johnson, mid to late 30s. And potentially with Brown's 33. He's been a receiver coach his whole career, so he's able to coach up receivers, and Brown's already got the work ethic. Everyone's talking about he's going to have this dramatic drop off. I still think he may not have all the catches, but I mean, I still think he's decent in the red zone. He's good for a couple different big plays. I hit the mic, sorry. But no, I think a lot of people are down on Brown, and I wouldn't be personally. So if you can capitalize on that, I would do it.
Right. Yeah, I would definitely not be opposed to floating some offers out there for him. But yeah, I don't think, if you're down on him, I think that's a huge mistake. So I just really liked seeing him after the signing and stuff. He seemed like he leveled out. Like he had seemed like he was flaking out a couple weeks before that. So
he wanted out of the marriage.
It was nice seeing him with his hair normal and his, not a blonde mustache. And
he's been working out with Carr, and they had that nice video where he went to Carr's house and they were showing him.
He looked like the Antonio Brown we love,
Yes.
So, all right, next question comes from Eric Flynn. Eric said Josh Jacobs showed solidarity. I don't know. Solidarity. I like that. Potato. Solidarity with Elijah Holyfield at their pro days. How much does this move the needle on him? We assume you mean Josh Jacobs, Eric, but maybe you mean Holyfield. I don't know.
That's what I meant. When I was writing this, I was like, I'm assuming you mean Jacobs, because Holyfield, I'm pretty sure, has pretty much just shot himself in the foot with his pro day. His 40s were between like mid 4.7s into the 4.8s again. So it's one of those things where, that's weird. I got an alert on my phone. Elijah Holyfield just finished running his 40 at his pro day.
Oh, nice.
So no, Jacobs 40, that's not the type of runner he is, so it doesn't really move the needle on him at all for me. Kareem Hunt didn't run a great 40. Other running backs have not run great 40s, and it's a fun number to attach to receivers and running backs because you're like, oh, he's fast. That's what they're supposed to be, but it's not the end-all, be-all for me personally.
Right, because Josh Jacobs didn't run that great at his 40 either. It was right on 4.6, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like 4.61, 4.68. I was seeing from Jim.
He's not a burner, though. I think it doesn't surprise anybody. I would have liked to see him a little quicker, but yeah. Other than that, this is from our buddy Just Me with a bunch of numbers behind it. Exactly how great is the 2020 draft? How many projected 2020 players would you take over 2019 players at 1.01? I honestly think if it was a super flex, I'd take probably about a dozen. And I'm not kidding. I would take probably 8 to 10. I mean, really like 2020.
If we go by position real quick, quarterbacks, I would rather have Tua probably than anybody in this class. Herbert probably not. I would have to watch more of him. I would probably rather have Haskins and Murray than Herbert. So, I mean, Tua, I would probably have over all the quarterbacks. From there, you can kind of get into more of a debate. Running backs, we don't even have to get into it. I mean,
all of these four that are listed.
All of them.
Eno, Swift, Akers, Etienne. I would take all of them over.
I would take Dobbins probably over him.
Jonathan Taylor. Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor too. So, and then receivers, I would take Chenault. I would take
Jerry
Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy. He's already my draft crush for next year. I follow him on Snapchat, and that man, literally all he does is work out, eat right, and sleep. That's literally all he does. So it's Jerry Jeudy, I think, is going to be a stud. So I would rather have Jeudy, Chenault, and at least over Metcalf, Butler, AJ Brown, whoever you see. And then tight ends, this tight end class, I think, is way better than
this tight end class is awesome. Yeah.
So
that's like 8 or 10 right there. So yeah,
exactly.
I fully agree. The next question feeds right into that. Pete Lawrence says, rank these guys: Eno Benjamin, DeAndre Swift, Cam Akers, and Travis Etienne.
You can go first.
First pick, Anthony Miller. No, I'm just kidding. That's my brand. I got a hashtag brand. Come on. I love Etienne. I got in with it the other day about someone and him not being a pass catching back. So I would not fault for anybody putting Swift over him. I think those are the top two. But Eno, man, God, he looks amazing. I think if he does really well this year, I think he could vault right up into that top two. And then Cam Akers, I'd like to see more from him. I know he's in a really bad situation in Florida State, but the talent's there, and I'd like to see it. So I would put Etienne, Swift, Benjamin, and Akers at this point.
Yeah, I would probably go Swift, Etienne, Akers, Benjamin. I mean, that could obviously change, but I think the only thing that's really going to change out of these two is I think Swift and Etienne are obviously the 1 and 2. Akers and Benjamin, it's really this year is going to depend a lot on who gets what. So that's just for me. Similar to yours, not too far off. A lot of these guys are real close. I mean, they're all going to be first-round picks next year. So
as far as very well end up being 4 of the top 5 tier, like it could be.
Exactly.
So, right now, I think I would put Etienne and Swift in a tier, and then like a couple guys like Benjamin, Akers, Taylor, Dobbins, like in the next tier down. So
yeah,
personally for me, but all right. Kyle Holden asks, do we have any favorite incoming freshmen?
Mr. 10,000 Devy, you want to take that first?
Yeah, things I was doing this week. All right. I really love Jaden Hasselwood. Coming into Oklahoma there. I think they need another big presence wide receiver. I really like him quite a bit. I like Graham Mertz, the quarterback coming in for Wisconsin. I think he's got a potential to be a really great quarterback, something Wisconsin has not had since Russell Wilson. You gotta love Trey Sanders at Alabama. Alabama always churns them out. John Emery for LSU. Those are like probably the top 4 or so as far as offensively. I haven't gotten to look at too much at defensive guys yet for the incoming freshmen. It's really hard to scout them when they come in from high school. Like there's just so much, and most of them put on 40, 50 pounds in their first year at
and everyone, college. The only thing you get to see is highlight tapes with.
Right. I mean, you got guys that are defensive ends at 6'3" and 230 pounds, that's not a defensive end in college, but then they put on 50 pounds of muscle their freshman year. And then, so it's really hard to, for me at least, something I want to work on is scouting the younger defensive players. But those are 4 that really pop out in my head about the freshmen coming in that I'm most excited.
2 for me that really stuck out. I will admit, freshmen coming in as far as high school to college, I'm not as up on as Dwight is. That's why we have him here, is because he's the biggest Devy degenerate I know on this planet. And it makes better content for you guys to listen to. I just know there's 2 running backs that went to 2 good running back colleges, LSU and Alabama, that I really like a lot. Trey Sanders went to Alabama, 6 foot, 216 pounds from the IMG Academy. We know they can produce good players. They have a litany of players they can run down and through. And then John Emery, 5'11", 202, signed to LSU. So I just think those 2, you've seen what LSU can do with running backs with Fournette, Geis, and the running back this year. Nick Brissett this year. And then Alabama, obviously, with the Heisman winners with Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs this year, Damian Harris this year. So, and something too, like they've been talking a lot about in the media now, Alabama doesn't run down their running backs like they used to. Like nobody's coming in like Derrick Henry or Mark Ingram where they have all these carries and touches coming in that they have to worry about. So Emery is one I like him a lot more just because of LSU and everything and Coach O and Go Tigers. So that's just the thing for me. Right. As a Florida fan, I have to realize that they're both going to be dominating my Florida Gators for the next couple of years.
Yeah, another name I forgot was Spencer Rattler, the quarterback for Oklahoma.
Yes.
They have not had that talented of a young running back or quarterback come in. They've had to steal him from A&M and stuff like that. But like I think I really wanted to see him start this year, but I mean, obviously, I think Hurts is going to start, which will probably be better for him in the long run. But
one more year sitting, I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Right. Next question from D Mike Media. It says no rookie wide receiver will finish in the top 30 in fantasy points. Thoughts? I don't think that's far-fetched at all, honestly.
I don't either. I don't even think a rookie wide receiver can potentially finish in the top 30 for wide receivers.
Right.
I mean, I think if anyone has a chance, it's probably going to be like a Butler or a Whiteside where they're going to get a buttload of red zone targets and get the touchdowns. But I think this receiving class, it's not going to be like 2014, but it's not going to be horrible. It's just going to be a patience thing with this class because you're going to get a couple guys that are going to go to the right spots and they're going to develop and play right away. But the majority of them, you're going to have to wait on a little bit.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can see is that if a guy like Harry or Butler or even Metcalf go to like Green Bay or Indianapolis, somewhere where they're going to get fed, then I can definitely see one of them getting in the top 30. But I don't think it's far-fetched at all to not have any of them in the top 30 this year. So next, last question. This is easy for me, but this one's from Lexi Harbaugh. Who do you love more, me or OBJ? I think that's for you because for me, it's pretty easy. It's OBJ.
Is my wife going to help bring a Super Bowl to Cleveland? No.
Somebody.
And she listens to the show now, so I know whenever the show comes out, I'll be at work because I work the next couple days, and then I'll just get an angry text, and then I'll deal with it when I get home, I guess. But yeah, as much as I'd like to say OBJ, I guess I got to go with my wife there. To be fair.
Yeah, you better. I'll edit that last part out if you want.
You can leave it. We're good.
All right, man. Well, that'll wrap up our episode 7. It was great, and I can't wait to get in the next division. That'll be next week. Next week we might also have a Dynasty Owner's Manual or Devy Owner's Manual. Sorry.
Yep.
We might have one next week. I kind of want to get one on there talking about startups and draft picks and things like that. So, but next week we'll be back with Devy Happy Hour. We'll go over one of the divisions. I'm not sure yet, North, Central, West, whichever. So, Andrew, tell everybody where they can find your work.
They can find all my work. Right now, I'm focusing a lot on Scorecrow because I'm doing a lot of it as their draft analyst. I will have my wide receiver rankings, which I'm grinding through right now. I've got 14 more receivers to finish up before Monday, and I got to get my piece in on Sunday. So I've got it down to where I've got about 4.5 players I got to watch a day. So I got my receivers list coming out from there, and then every Monday leading up until draft week, I've got my receivers dropping. I'll have my running backs dropping, quarterbacks, and then I'll have a top 100 big board for everybody, both NFL-wise and fantasy-wise. So the fantasy one will obviously be for Dynasty Happy Hour. My NFL equivalent will be for the Scorecrow. So I've been busting my butt. I've got 111 players that I want to grade, and I've got about 40 left. So that's just between quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. So hoping everyone enjoys it.
Yeah, I just watch one game and then give them a grade. That's what I do. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at FFPeoplesChamp. Writing some stuff for DHH and haven't wrote anything for GTC yet, but I hope to soon. Kind of dealing with some, family and stuff right now. So just kind of not getting as much time to write as I'd like, but we're going to get some more, and we're going to have a lot of draft coverage for you the next, month and 10 days now. So
yeah, today we're officially 5 weeks out.
Nice.
I mean, they're 5 weeks and 1 day from Marvel Endgame.
Right. And real quick, you can find our podcast at Devy Happy Hour on Twitter, and you can email us at devyhappyhour@gmail.com if you have any questions. If you need us to look through your players available for Devy draft that's coming up, I'm more than happy to do that. I've been doing that for quite a few people lately, actually. So I really enjoy doing that type of stuff. Reach out to both of us. We're both on Twitter like 24/7. So
and I really appreciate we got all those fan questions in for Devy Happy Hour. I like doing that a lot more. Let you guys be a part of the show, and we get to interact with you. And did the Happy Hour Twitter handle I'm trying to get more involved with. I did buy an iPad just so I could have an account on the iPad and an account on my phone, so we're not getting bombarded on one over the other. Looking to keep the daily polls going and everything else. So just really appreciate the interaction, guys and gals.
Right. Yeah, it's something I want to do too is push more information out on the Devy Happy Hour and the Devy Owners Manual. It's just something that I, for some reason, have not been doing. And yeah, we'll get more to you guys. So once again, thank you guys, everybody, for listening, and we will talk to you next week. Roll Tide. No Roll Tide.